Hey, 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 everybody. It's your girl Sabrina, Bree, not Brianna, now known as Dr. Bree, here for another episode of High Tea with Bree and my girl Dion. It is Friday, which means we made it through another week. Our hair is still intact. We still got our eyebrows and our eyelashes. Thank God. Good. We are super excited to see you. We're going to get this show started like we do every week, asking you to like and share. Send us some stars so that we could take this message out into the virtual highways and byways. As you are coming into this virtual room, take a moment, send a text, send a message, and invite someone else to log on. We are excited about today's conversation. And by we, I mean me. I'm excited. We are pivoting our conversation on generational trauma to generational poverty. We're coming after that poverty mindset today. And so we are excited. We have powerhouse guests. This is the conversation, whether you're listening to it live and in real time, or you'll be listening to the playback. This is one you don't want to miss. So as you're liking, sharing, grabbing your tea, your coffee, whatever it is you drinking on this here Friday night, I'm going to ask you to do me one last solid, and that's to help me welcome my favorite girl into the studio, Dion, the radical midwife. What's going on, Grace?
Hey, 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 everybody. Happy Friday.
Listen here. We made it.
We made it. Listen, it could have went another way. It could have went another way. There's lots going on in this here city, honey. Listen, and this is the show you'd want to be on to talk about the other way that it could have gone.
Absolutely. I had to go into the office 3 times this week. And I tell you, I feel like I was abused, honey. And so we can have a conversation. Every time I show up here, I'm abused. And so we can have a conversation that will eventually help me not have to go into the office, because I'm going to have some wealth on my own. I'm here for the conversation. I'm here for the learning.
Can I get an amen lights? That's all right. Home is fly. Ask me how I know.
I love dinner. How was your week?
My week has been lit. Super busy. Lots going on. But more than anything, just really getting comfortable in my flow of being okay in my healing. You hear me? Like being well emotionally, mentally, spiritually, financially, like things just not just coming together, but coming together well enough. What I realize and what I have come to conclude is you can't help anybody else if you're low, right? When you do the work to do the internal healing, things begin to change, not just for you, but for everybody around you. And so I had a really, really, really good week, Bree, honestly.
Absolutely. I'm grateful. It's a trip. Like at this stage in life, being booked and busy is a burden and a blessing.
Right.
And on the other side of healing, you can hold it as that, a burden and a blessing. One of the things I love about this season of healing is that even through trauma and pain, we can still show up and be there for other people. I had a God day where I showed up in a couple of places, and it was clear the only reason I showed up was because somebody needed to be ministered to. And that in and of itself made my Friday amazing.
Absolutely. That's always fire. You know, we have those God assignments, those God appointments when you thought you went for one thing and next thing you know, God takes that thing and twists it all the way around. Those are probably my favorite days of the week. It could be as simple as a phone call or a bump into at Starbucks or just at the corner store when God creates opportunities for there to be a God moment. So I get it. I've had several God moments.
I'm not going to tell the entire story because that's not what we're here for. But I literally had a lady burst out into tears. And she said, I had thought God stopped hearing me when I pray. You being here it lets me know that God hears me when I pray. I was like, get out of here.
That's lit. That's always fun, right?
It was so good. It was so good. But anyway, people are coming into the room, and I'm not going to stop you from doing your favorite
You already know what I want to do. I want to
Man,
say hi to the people, honey, because without the people, listen,
listen,
my job is obsolete. Hey, Bree, it's great to see you. Hi, my sister Aisha, and then to Crescenda, I believe is her name. Crescenda.
Crescenda.
Crescenda, very good. Cooper
Crescenda.
Smith, amen. Super duper happy to have you. And I want to give a really quick shout out. This week, Brianna launched something, and
Huge.
I love it. I love it when I get to see a plan come together, when God
Yes.
intervenes in our lives, interrupts our normal thought processes and patterns, our traumas, our history, to show the very hand of heaven here on earth through his people. And it reiterates to me why, number one, what my role and responsibility is. It is a level and a measure of accountability that I'm grateful for. And so, Brianna, I just want to tell you publicly how proud I am of you for having the courage, number one, to obey the voice of God, but more
Yes.
importantly, be a voice to the people. And it's in the park. And you may think that that's minuscule, but that's far bigger than any stage, arena, platform you could ever think, because he cares more importantly about the least of these. And so I just wanted to celebrate you on this evening. I want to invite you guys to like, to tag, and to share. And don't forget that we're always open to stars. It helps us to further the ministry. There are things that I am trying to do in studio, to bring the studio to life, and not have us separated or segregated in nights of being able to come publicly and share. And these last few weeks have been tumultuous. The
Listen,
feedback is unsurmountable, right?
last week somebody said this should have been a conference, and it got me to thinking.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time. We haven't done it in a little bit. Have we
It's
had
been a
any? We haven't had an in-person nothing this year. And
Mhm.
so maybe if the Lord see fits to delay his coming, maybe we can have at least one high tea in person this year.
Absolutely. I think we absolutely ought to bring it outside into a room where we can physically touch one another, see one another, share with one another.
And so if the stars will do that.
Yeah. The
Send your help,
stars
Lord.
run that.
Send your stars.
Send help, Jesus.
So listen, we
Absolutely.
have some financial powerhouses
Real
in
talk.
the building, and I am
Real talk.
so excited in this era of brown girl magic that we have some ladies who are going to walk us into how we manage how we manage not only our finances, but how we combat this poverty mindset that for
Yes.
many of us have been a part of the generational trauma and patterns that we carry forward. So
Absolutely.
without further ado, Dion, I'm gonna let you introduce the ladies, and I'm gonna handle the paparazzi. I'll hold them back.
I got it. I got it. I want to say hey to Brittany. Hey, Britt.
Hi, Brittany.
Welcome. We're glad to have you. Well, I want to share this because of the things that we've been talking about. God does things supernaturally in order to place you in the lives of the people that you're supposed to, quote unquote, do life with, right? You never know where that's coming from or how he's going to do it, but he has such an uncanny knack of really equipping you and preparing you for your next. And I want to encourage people not to be apprehensive about new relationships, about new sisterhoods, about new friendships. You never know what God is doing. And so during the pandemic, I got connected to this phenomenal woman. You guys have seen her on multiple occasions. You'll see her on my side. I'm blessed to be able to call her one of my graces. She is the gentle one of the bunch. She's the one that says everything really, really soft. I call her a punk, but I kind of like her being a punk. It works for me because somebody have to be the punk in the bunch.
Somebody got to be it.
Somebody got to be it. She the sweet, gentle, soft one. Sabrina is the eloquent one. But for real, Simone is just the humble, quiet, gentle one, unless you get to talking to her about money.
Yes, honey.
Then she gets a little gangster, right? So real quick, guys, without further ado, before I bring on our additional guest, you guys help us welcome our Grace. Yes, indeed. This is Moneybags herself. This is Simone Alexis Lane, honey child.
Hey,
Hey.
hi T with Bree and my sisters. Hi
Right.
Gracie.
Hey,
Welcome,
hey,
sweet
welcome.
Simone. Welcome, welcome,
Hey,
welcome. I am
so
so,
excited to be
so
here.
excited.
Yeah,
You look
Yes.
amazing, honey.
you do.
Thank you, girl.
You
Listen,
Working on
look
some things.
that good
amazing.
white streak, I need that in my
Working
life.
on some things.
Listen, you're giving Cruella DeVille a run for her money. You better
Right.
run.
She
You
better
better
run.
run. That's beautiful.
Hilarious.
That's beautiful.
It is. It's beautiful.
All right, so we got
Thank
one more.
We got one more. And so, listen, again, supernatural connections, divine appointments. Um, you never know who God is going to place in your life, how God is going to place them in your life, and for what reason and season God is going to place them in your life. And so, y'all, listen. We have a whole turn up with this little firecracker right here. She does no playing. She is absolutely hilarious. She is a sister for real, on
Yes.
so many different levels. I wish I could tell you guys to what degree she's been huge and instrumental in my life. I thank God for her humility, her honesty. I love being connected to women of God that are integral and full
Yes.
of character, and full of dignity, and put family first, but more than anything, use their gifts to advance the kingdom. And so, that being said, honey, I have Julie Ann Talbot, honey, and she's a boss. You understand me? Hey! We call her
Wait, what is it the Koreans do? Like, wait, they do that thing? I don't know. It's like a heart. I don't know.
Oh, this
Hello?
right here, Julianne.
Oh,
This right here.
That's better.
Welcome to
Welcome.
High Tea. We are so excited. We're going to jump into the conversation because we got people in the chat. We often hear the term poverty mindset. For the last couple of weeks, Dion and I have been tackling issues of childhood trauma and family dysfunction. And money is one of those things that houses all of that. A couple weeks ago, I made a post, maybe about a month and a half ago, and the post said, as a result of my healing, both of my grandchildren are homeowners and landlords. And there was somebody in the chat that made a comment that it was sarcastic, but it was almost crab in a barrel-ish. And that's what we do. The things that we cannot identify with, that we can't resonate with, as a people, we tear it down. And it was very small-minded. So I didn't respond to it. But today, I want us to have some of these conversations so that we can all be in the know. We can all get there so we don't feel like we have to pull each other down when you see one getting there.
Well, first of all, where they at? Who did what? You didn't.
It's okay. I'm sure we'll come across their rental application soon enough.
That part, right? That just made me spitfire hot. Wait, real quick. I got to do what I do.
Go for it. Go for
Tracy, I appreciate you. Hi, my sister Ravonda. That's the Red Suitcase Diary girl there. Hey, y'all. Hey, glad to have you. Yeah, that just made my ears hot.
But have you seen stuff like that where you'll see somebody succeeding and people can't be happy for them?
Of course.
Or they can't hide the fact that they're not happy for them.
Of course.
And that's an issue. It's an issue of poverty mindset.
Look, you see Vonda? You see what Vonda said? You already know what it is.
If you really want to know, just go back and look at the post. You'll see
it. Very good. I also want to say this really quick. I posted something a little bit earlier, which simply stated, and I think we can all talk about this from very different perspectives, as we grew up in very different households with different household dynamics. 90% of the time, your mentality concerning finances, liquidity, resources, money, whatever you refer to it as, it was handed to you generationally. You saw somebody's financial habits, you saw their routines, some of us did not know that we dealt with poverty in any home. And what it does for me, concerning my childhood trauma is make me grateful to God that I didn't have one hand raising me. Does that make sense?
It does.
I lived in so many different places and experienced so many different dichotomies associated with finances and financial responsibility and stewardship and literally operating from a place of sheer and utter overexposure, I think, to financial things, so that I started to notice the depravity. I started to notice the financial difference and deficit when I would go from my aunt and uncle's house, who lived where the non-melanated people asked what my uncle did for a living. Are you a sports figure? Are you an attorney? And he was like, no, I work for IBM, right? I'm an executive. But all of those different things, those different patterns, those different habits, they lended to me being financially responsible, when in contrast, in my home, I saw complete poverty mentality. Spend it all up. And I'm sure Simone will be able to add to that. Go ahead, Sabrina.
Well, actually, I was going to say, how about we start with both Simone and Jet just giving us a brief introduction in the form of tell us what you do, so that the people, as they have questions, they can type them in the chat. So let's start with you, sweet Simone. What do you do?
I am a financial advisor and a financial responsibility coach. So what that means is I coach people into financial responsibility.
Say what are you?
I'm a financial responsibility coach. And that's the big part. I've learned that we don't need financial literacy. There's more than enough out there. We need discipline and courage to do that which we know to do, to get our families into generational wealth.
You need somebody in your business.
You need a coach. You need somebody that's going to hold you responsible. And I stand and do that with families, with single women, with couples. I do that on a regular basis with business owners, really working on what's the goal and how do we get there and how do we stay attached to the goal. It's so easy to veer off.
Yeah. And can I say that you say you do it with families, you do it with single women, you do it with couples, you do it with grace, you do it with empathy, you do it with kindness. And so for those of you who know by the end of this conversation that you need somebody in your business, we're going to present you with an opportunity to be vulnerable for the sake of generations to come. Thank you so much. Ms. Talbot, what do you do?
So I'm going to take back a step. Currently, I am an attorney, and half of my practice is estate planning, probates, trusts. Before that, as Simone knows, I was the director of programs for a local nonprofit that focused on domestic violence and sex assault. And when you talk about generational trauma, it is definitely one of those aspects that I think because of the past work that I've done, I have a more deeper understanding of why sometimes people don't want to talk to me as a lawyer, particularly about what they're going through with their homes or how to even pass it on with their families in terms of the assets that they have. And, you know, to touch tone back to that, a lot of times the reason why people cannot get financially literate or responsible is due to what they've experienced, as you've been saying, right? It's a lot of it is just trying to understand where we came from so that we know what we can do, how to move ahead, and then transfer what we know to the people that come after us.
Thank you for that. So I want to ask a question, because I know you two ladies have seen it all. You've experienced it all. You've sat across the table and heard it all. And so for those of us who are listening now and will be listening later, you looking at your situation thinking, listen, ain't no help for me. I'm too far in the hole. Is there any situation that's insurmountable when it comes to coming out of the hole?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There is no situation. Now, I am a believer. And so with that, I always leave room in every plan that I do for God to be God.
Mm.
We can do natural things, but I ask all my clients, particularly those that are believers, let's hold space for God to do what He's going to do, but we're going to do our part.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no space that we can't come back from. I've seen people come back from extreme debt, extreme bad decisions, and slowly we work through the trauma that caused those decisions.
Right.
I've learned to ask those deeper questions, because it's not about money. Money just needs to be stewarded. Money doesn't care who owns it. It doesn't care if you add to it, it will grow. If you take from it, it will decrease. If you invest it, it will multiply.
Right.
What we end up having to navigate is the human nature. What are your triggers? What are the things that cause you to spend when you know you shouldn't, or do other things like that?
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's because Jet took a step back and told us what she used to do for the nonprofit, but I really feel in my spirit, I would love for Jet and for Simone and for Grace as well to welcome that woman into the conversation who's in a domestic violence relationship and staying because financially she feels like she can't do it on her own. Can we invite her into this conversation?
Yeah, that's big. That's huge.
I literally feel that right now.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh.
And
Oh, there she go. There you go. Go ahead.
okay. My understanding and my statistics may completely be off. It could be higher at this point. But back when I was working in that field about 6 years ago, about 8 out of 10 women would not leave their relationships because they were not able to conceive of a life where they had financial independence away from their abuser. And a lot of times it comes into play because they have minor children, right? And kids need to be able to eat, have a roof over their heads, go to school, all of those things, in which I absolutely invite individuals in that situation to see Simone, to understand the responsibility of it. And I hate to say it, and let me just be very, very honest here. The state of California probate law does not care how much debt people are in. The question is going to be who is responsible for handling your affairs, your debts, your assets when you have passed on.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is every single person has an estate plan. You just might not like it because it's the one either you choose for yourself or it's the one that the state you live in will choose for you.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you want making that choice? You or your government?
Mm-hmm.
Frankly, that's kind of, the baseline. It starts there.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to have any assets, really, to really think through these choices, because even if you had, let's say you had a checking account and you have $200 in your checking account. When you pass away, the bank is going to see if you have a listed pay on death beneficiary on that account. If you have a list or co-own that account with someone, if you co-own the account with another individual, that individual that you co-own it with will own that account. It's theirs by right of contract law, really, right? Because you co-own it. So you have agreed to own and share that account together. So that's one way. The other way is if you have a beneficiary. Sorry.
I'm going to slow you down because you're taking us to the steps, and we ain't there yet. We are not there yet, but hold that. We don't want to get to people too much too soon.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Simone, I know you've worked with a wide range of people. Have you worked with women who needed to escape a domestic violence situation? As a therapist, what we tell them is get to safety. But a lot of them stay because the financial safety is tied to their abuser. Can even that woman, can she come up with a plan? Because a lot of times you can't leave right away. But if you start planning somewhere, you can see light. Have you had that experience?
I haven't had the experience. I'm prepared for it.
Come
and
on.
What I mean by that is I am prepared to help you tuck away some money so that you can leave. And that doesn't have to take a long time. I'm always going to say get to safety first. Get out of it, and then we can figure it out after. And after has answers, after has resources. There are resources out there. I'm prepared with those resources to help you be able to position yourself to stand alone, stand free, stand out of abuse, and in the wholeness of who you are.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So if it's you, if you're listening, you have a daughter that's in this situation, before the show is out, inbox one of us. There are resources, there is help. Dion, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking two things. And again, it goes right back to the inception of our conversation, which is childhood trauma and early childhood experiences that lead to and lend to even decisions like choosing a partner that is abusive, like making an active decision to give someone full control of your life through liquidity, right? In an effort to quote unquote raise a home, because that's what you saw, that's what you experienced. And really, in some instances, I had an aunt, my aunt passed away right before my son did. My aunt never knew what a PG&E bill was. My aunt never knew how to go to the power company or utility company back in the day and actually pay a bill. She didn't know what that was. She was also very unhappy in a wealthy environment, extremely wealthy. But my aunt also got married at 18 years old. My grandmother, with a second grade education, shifted and moved her children, her family away from an abusive husband. Started with 5 brown paper bags, $2.50 in nickels, with 5 children. And so my aunt couldn't wait to get away and stayed married for 60 plus years as a result of never, ever wanting to experience that again. And my uncle was not, he was a wonderful man. Like I'm not acting like he was abusive, but I'm saying that to say we make financial decisions based on childhood disparities, whether or not you've addressed it as such. For some people, I grew up watching my mother buy 5 pair of the same shoes in different colors, not for anything other than just emotional spending. It made her feel better. Or buying a whole bunch of groceries, like in excess, right? So there are so many different things that kind of coincide with all of these, these spending habits. And me, on the other hand, my financial my mindset, my drive was to avoid, I'm not ever being broke, but more than not being broke, I don't want to love or trust anyone. Money was my love. Money was my God. Money, by all means, was my cure-all to everything. And so, it kind of marries even with the domestic violence situation. I wouldn't let nobody hold me captive. She let somebody hold her captive to avoid it, right? So based on what your experience and exposure is, your emotional adjustment to how you handle, approach, understand, speak about, feel about money is based on whatever scenario you grew up in. I guarantee you, if you begin to backtrack on how you experience finances, resources, liquidity as a child, you'll start to dispel some of the bad financial habits that you have now that lead to you not being prepared for later, lead to you not being able to hand down generational wealth. All right, I'm quiet.
That's okay.
Let's talk about what financial trauma is. Can I jump in, Bree?
I was gonna pull you in. So yes.
So financial trauma it's an intense and enduring emotional response to current and past financial trauma. And so some of the effects of that looks like, I love that the way you gave the correlation, Dion, between you and your mom, and how watching her and even your aunt with your grandmother, it becomes that I'm not going to do what I saw. I I saw lack. I saw not enough. I saw poverty. I saw overspending. I saw these things. So I'm not going to do that. So sometimes that looks like, for one, that could look like splurging. We never had, so I'm going to just splurge. That can look like hoarding. That's that buying 5 pairs of shoes in the same color.
Ooh, that's good. That hoarding is a big one. That's a whole financial issue.
It's a financial issue.
And that comes from childhood trauma
Yes,
and life trauma.
Yes, yes. That can look like money avoidance. I don't even want to deal with money. I'm not going to create a budget. I'm not going to open my bills. I'm going to be negligent in my spending. Those are all kind of some of the ways that we do it. We can sabotage our finances because of financial trauma. So I'm not going to go apply for high paying jobs. I don't feel worthy.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I fit in that. So I'm never going to ask for a raise. I'm not going to go apply for a better paying job because attached to my trauma says I'm not worthy of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then the spending types that you end up falling into, and you kind of touched on it, Dion, is that compensatory spending. Mm-hmm. That's spending to make myself feel good. I feel better. It fills the void. Even so much as spending, and I'll be clear to say this because this is an area we do it a lot in, food. Mm-hmm. So we're using not just spending of finances, but we're spending it on food to fill the void. And you can know that if you look at your bank statement and you went to the store 4 times in a row, or you went out to eat 3 times today, those are voids that you're trying to fill. And what I've been really led to say is that our bodies don't care what we eat. Our bodies say we need fuel. Mm-hmm. We say out of our mood, out of our emotion, I want this, I want that. We get moody and picky. So we really need to look at it's a whole big picture. It's not just one aspect. The trauma hits us in our emotion. That emotion leads us into our financial spending. And then we fall into other sorts of addictions and things like that. So it's a heavy load. It's a heavy load, but it's one that if you begin to address it, just like it starts from one place, doing it in one area. I facilitate a program called D-Free. By the time I get done with that program, everybody want all their frees. D-Free is debt freedom, but by the time we get through with it, I have everybody saying, oh, this spilled over into this. I started doing this better. I started, so it's a whole comprehensive package of pain, but there's a whole comprehensive package of healing when we begin to do the steps, and freedom when we begin to do the steps.
I love that. Thank you for that hope. What you said is actually what I was going to ask you to talk about, and that was the revelation of the bank statement. What our bank statements reveal about where our heart is and where our heart hurt is, and how we're coping, right? How we're meeting legitimate needs in illegitimate ways. That's generally the subject of our money.
Yes,
right?
It is.
Jet mentioned, we live in the state of California, and that there's a plan. There's a probate plan for us. Right? We all have one. I was thinking about when you got my life together, Simone. And, I always wore as a compliment, I never see you in the same thing twice. Like, that was a compliment to me. And you was like, that's the problem. I'm like, oh. First of all, that's a problem, right? And I remember part of my coming to you was because I wanted to purchase another home. And I kept saying, I can't afford that. I can't afford that. We in California, I'm single. I can't afford that. I can't afford that. But as you begin to, Macy's, like, you could afford it. Here's where your money is to afford it. Yes. So for even all of us that are listening, whether you're single or not, you're not a homeowner. Is it not that you can't afford it, or is it that you're diverting your money for home ownership other places?
All right.
Yes.
I
Very,
was.
very good. Very
Absolutely.
good. I tell everybody I can know who you are from your bank statements.
It tells a whole story.
It tells me everything I need to know about you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, real talk. This is where I think we can kind of shift it to Jet a
Yeah.
little bit. Let me ask you this, Jet, and only because the truth is we enjoy life and don't prepare for transition, and we leave people with a lot of responsibilities they didn't ask for, with a lot of business unkept and untied off, so to speak. And I still don't want to go through the steps yet, Jet, but how many situations have you encountered, I'll say in just the last 7 months, where people end up in probate scenarios when they could have just had an intervention plan had they taken the right steps?
Very good. Can I say before she starts, because we're calling her Jet, and I know they probably like, who is that?
Right. Sorry.
So we call her Jet. That is for her initials, Julianne
Julie Ann
Salvo.
Talbot.
Yes. A lot. There have in the last 7 months, I can think of a lot of situations in which people did not plan through no fault of their own sometimes, and then other times, we all make choices, right? It's like it's the Macy's bill. It's the I would rather do something else with my money than to spend it on putting together an estate plan. Um, I know that everybody who is on this podcast is very spirit led. And so, what I invite people to do is to, when you have a moment on a post it or a piece of paper, just write down the word inheritance.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
then
good.
ask yourself, as part of your spiritual inheritance to the people you leave behind, what does that look like of your earthly possessions?
Mm.
You can't take them with you, but they're still gonna be here.
Mm-hmm.
And what does it look like to have a house that is prepared for those eventual transitions?
Mm-hmm.
Because you belong to a house, right? You belong to your family. Your family belongs to you. They may be family of blood, or they may be family of chosen ones, that you've made your family. But what does it look like? And currently, if something were to happen to you, what will those people receive? And have you placed them in a position to receive those gifts from
Mm-hmm.
you? Because we all have spiritual gifts, but God also gave us the work of our hands.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I help people transition, is
Mm-hmm.
the work and the blessing that you received.
Mm-hmm.
Where is that meant to go? And are we
Mm-hmm.
doing what we are supposed to do to ensure that it gets into the hands that are meant to receive them? And to
That's big.
touchstone back, thank you, and to touchstone back to our earlier conversation, for those of you who may have a family member who is in a situation that you desperately want them to get out of, would you consider making specific particular gifts to those individuals, structured in a way that might help them get to the
Mm.
financial freedom necessary to leave the situation that they're currently in?
That's good. That's good, Jet.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so can we just like put just a small pin there? Because Jack, you said something that stirred my stomach. Dion, can you talk to the procrastinators out there, the people who know I know I mean my business is not taken care of. It is open ended. If I died today, these people wouldn't even grieve me because they're gonna be pissed.
Yeah, they're gonna be mad.
Listen, I'm glad you're gone, because if not, we would be fighting right now. You left all of this mess, right? I saw a meme of about a year or so ago, and it punched me in my stomach. And as Jet was talking, I heard it again. It says procrastination is the arrogant assumption that God owes you tomorrow to do what you could do today.
Yes, yes.
And so
That's
for those
a
of us,
bold thought. That's a bold
procrastination is the
assumption.
arrogant assumption that God owes you tomorrow
Mm,
to do what you could do today.
mm. Yeah, yeah. And it is not promised. And it don't have to look the way you thought it was going to look. And so not being prepared says to your heirs, your beneficiaries, your loved ones that you leave, that I did not prepare for you. I did not think about you beyond
You were not
this.
important enough.
You were not important enough for me to plan and put something in place for you. One of the things I do in financial planning with my younger investors, especially if they're just starting retirement, I have them write a letter to their latter self and tell their latter self, I prepared for you.
Mm-hmm.
I thought about you when I was 29
Mm-hmm.
and I started putting away so that you could live well.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
so it's, if we will do that on paper, why won't we do that in the sense of just our money, in the sense of our assets and other things, by having a plan in place and a state plan in place?
For sure. And I think there are some of us that now at this big age, we got a plan in place, right? Can we also talk a little bit about ensuring that you have the right plan in place? Because I know you both have seen it where people thought they had the right type of insurance policy. People thought they had this, and then something happened, whether it's long-term care insurance that was needed or whatever, and they realized what they had something, but what they had. So funny, Simone, you can verify this. I found an insurance policy for my mother going through her stuff. It was $200,000. Listen, I wasn't excited, but when I saw my name on there as the beneficiary, I was like, well, come on, Jesus, and pay me back for some of the stuff all down through the years or whatever. I called the people. I think it was maybe Simone that said, you better call. See what that is first. It was some bogus policy that said she had to pass away while on vacation. She almost 80. She's not going on vacation, but she's been paying into this policy for years and years. All of that money was gone.
Yeah.
Had you not told me to look into that and something happened to her, I might have thought we had coverage.
So, and it was Dion that told you, her mind.
Okay. It was Dion. So can we even talk to the people about the importance? How do you make sure what you have is literally what you think you have?
So certainly review what you have, if you have existing things in place, annually. Don't let it get too far away from you, because life changes in a moment. Life changes. And so you want to make sure that you're looking at that so that beneficiaries maintain up to date. If you left that marriage on that life insurance policy and you ain't changed that man's name, then he's still the beneficiary. That doesn't go away. Whatever you put on there is what the insurance company is going to do. And so making sure that those beneficiaries are kept up to date. And talk with an advisor. I tell you, any good advisor worth their weight will talk to you at least for a consultation. Come in with your questions. Stay within that 30 minutes or else pay for their services, please. But any advisor worth their weight will at least talk to you and look over some of those things with you and give you guidance on exactly what to be looking for. But you certainly, as far as insurance policies and beneficiaries of annuities and products like that, you certainly want to make sure that your beneficiaries stay up to date and that you're reviewing exactly what you have, because that was accidental death insurance that mom's had.
And she ain't been on no vacation. I mean, and never. I don't think since she got to the state of California, she ain't been nowhere.
And it's easy to get tricked on that one because it's so low in premium.
Absolutely.
And so you're thinking, oh, I'm getting $200,000 for this, whatever the figure is, but it's not enough, and it's not doing what you think it's doing.
Absolutely. And so maybe this is what we can start talking about. You mentioned and get a financial advisor. Listen, at this big age, we have to stop taking our financial advice from TikTok. We have to stop taking it from these sound bites and building life around it. I saw something that said, if you wait, if you have beneficiaries on your checking and your savings account, you need to take that off and then put your checking and savings account inside a trust, because with just their names, those accounts are still going to probate. Jed, is that true? Is that something we should be rushing down to the bank to do, removing beneficiaries?
Don't rush to the bank unless you have $200,000 in your checking account. And I say that because in the state of California, you are able to go ahead and go to your bank and say you want your pay on death beneficiaries to receive that money, and that account with the proper beneficiaries on it would be considered a contract between the bank and you as to who those beneficiaries are, and you do not need to go to probate. If, on the other hand, you have a checking account and it has, like, let's say this, you want to buy a house, you sell your house, you now have $250,000 in a checking account. You don't have a beneficiary on it. It is a large amount. You're not sure. Maybe you're trying to buy a house with your boyfriend and you might not want your children or whoever else to want to claim that money. That is when I recommend you do a trust and we put that money in the trust, because then the trust, it affords you some protection if something were to happen to you. So checking account, put it in a trust if there is a large amount of money in there that will trigger probate, which is $188,000. And if you don't want it going to your pay on death beneficiary, you put it in the trust. Okay.
So my little tax return ain't gonna do it. And my little tax return ain't about to trigger nothing. They're not coming. The people.
Your tax return is not going to trigger anything. Your checking account is not going to automatically get into probate.
Okay.
I can tell you about other things that'll get you into probate, but I'll let you take me there.
Okay. Well, what I want to do, and I realize we haven't done this. If you have questions for either financial responsibility coach, Sweet Simone, or for our trust guru, Jet, go ahead and put your comments in the chat. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can. What I do want you ladies to talk about is the process of accessing your services, or maybe services like yours. A lot of times, if we're not familiar with something, we wouldn't even know where to start. Like, who needs a trust? Let's just say that. And what's the difference between a trust and a living will?
So a living will is actually your advanced healthcare directive. It is about your healthcare, right? Because your actual last will and testament does not have any legal effect until after you die. A living will is you telling the doctors how you want your end of life care to be about, as well as makes certain choices for you regarding organ donation, cremation, burial, whatnot. You get to do all of that. A trust, a revocable trust, is an agreement between you, the owner of the property, and a trustee who you want to put in charge of the property to manage those assets for the benefit of a beneficiary who is going to receive the benefit of that asset, which is why they are called a beneficiary. You as the owner can sometimes be called the trustor, the grantor, the settlor. And the document that you create between those three individuals is called your trust. You can call it a trust agreement. Go ahead.
So what's the threshold for when someone needs a trust? If you're a homeowner, do you need a trust?
Yes. California, yes. Because there is no home in California unless it is a vacant land that is going to be less than $188,000 gross value. It does not matter what the mortgage is.
Okay.
If you have a house that's $200,000, it should go in a trust.
Okay. So let's say someone gets married later in life, right? So she come into the marriage with her stuff, he come into the marriage with his stuff because they both have stuff to bring to the table, and then they also build together. Is that 3 separate trusts, his, hers, and theirs, or is that one trust?
Well, that depends on every couple, because sometimes when people are on their second or third marriages, they might already have they may already have homes of their own, right? That are coming, like separate homes. And maybe those separate homes they want going to their own children, and they don't want to mingle their assets. So the question I have for that couple is, do you care who gets it? And if you care, that's where the discussion begins as to
I almost said hell yeah.
how many documents you need. Go ahead.
Sorry. What about insurance policies? Do insurance policies belong in the trust?
Not necessarily, because the insurance, when I say not necessarily, it's because my utter belief, when you have young children, all of your assets need to be in the trust if they're not going 100% to your spouse first, right? Because we do live in a community property state. So most insurance policies, as Simone can tell you, so long as you have a primary beneficiary on it, that person is fine. But my thing is if you have young children and you want the payout on your insurance policy to benefit them, and you want to create some structure around that, that is when I recommend that you put it in a trust.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. And Simone, I want to ask you, as Jet was talking, I thought about that junk drawer that we all have in the kitchen, where everything is in there, right? And I also thought about how, like, we have insurance policies of our own. We have some at work. We have some from this area. We have some from that area. For me, it feels like if somebody's going to pass, to have all of that stuff in one place, because I got to go here looking for your stuff, here looking for your stuff. Is there a way to centrally have all of our important stuff housed in one place? It's not
There is. That takes intention. That takes putting together a packet. Usually, if you get your trust done, you should keep those documents with that in a secure, fireproof container, so that should a fire come, you have access to those things. Even keeping them digitally today somewhere is excellent. But that takes you putting together, that's that planning. So that I'm planning to tell you how to make it easy. It's enough to be grieving. It's enough to be grieving than to have to go find that stuff. So it's inherent upon those that are leaving the legacy to put it in a place where it can easily be found and accessible to those that you leave it to. And
you just said something I never even thought about. A secure, fireproof box situation.
Yeah.
I ain't never thought about that.
You have to.
So, and I will say what we've experienced, because I used to work in Sonoma County, what we have experienced when the fires were happening is don't make that place be a safety deposit box at your bank, because the one place that is gonna shut down in an emergency evacuation situation will be that bank. So if you want all of your documents in a location, we do recommend some of those documents sometimes being placed in your go bag. And, if you aren't able to do that, sort of fireproof safe in your closet or whatnot, right? Just
a portable one.
That way. A portable one. Yeah.
Okay.
My recommendation is a portable one with your estate plan, your insurance policies, your possibly last 2 to 3 years of tax returns, your car notes, and the most recent statements from your financial institutions that will
Good
let
Lord.
someone kind of walk through.
That's a lot. But can I
I
say
just got
this?
overwhelmed.
Don't be overwhelmed. Right. So Simone has all of those things. Well, I mean, not all of them, but the combination of 831 East 2nd Street will get you tight right quick on every level, from a spiritual aspect to an emotional aspect to a financial or fiduciary planning aspect to a living will and trust. Can I just say this? So my computer decided to reboot while we were sitting here, and that's fine. The conversation not only continued, but continued with meat and substance. One of the most memorable things I have about my grandmother is the weight of that day. The letter came with a check that said, "From the estate of Sadie Jackson." And it wasn't that it was $1 million. If it had been $5, the fact that she had intentionality with a 2nd grade education, began doing hair for 25 cents a press. I watched her be a fisherwoman and sell fish to make money, right? All the things that she did to ensure that not just myself, her children, her children's children, and her children's children's children receive some money, which is why this became so near and dear to my heart. I watched my grandmother. She never got a late notice, never had PG&E turned off. Poverty was not her portion. She was very frugal, but I looked at mason jars in the cabinets, money hidden in the bricks outside of her bank accounts. My grandmother was prepared and equipped, and I was blessed to see her be financially responsible, in contrast to my mother, who was always had some money, but the differences, right? And so with all this information that we've received on this evening, to really kind of bring to your attention that your finances are your responsibility, I just want to say what I felt when I opened that letter and read it. I could feel the weight of her history. I could feel the weight of her being conscious and cognizant that her family was her responsibility. And we don't do that as Black and brown communities on a great level. And I think that in order for us to change that, the first thing you have to do is spiritually come to grips with the fact that you have an onus to hold. There's a part that you have to play in changing the trajectory of your lineage. And all of us here represent not only that idea, but that directive of doing something different.
We have to. We absolutely have to. We are the first generation that will leave debt to our children as an inheritance if we don't do something different. My grandparents left, and many of our, like yours, left a home free and clear. We're talking about with less education, with less means,
resources,
with less access to expertise and people of advisors and that sort. They sacrificed, and we don't do that anymore.
We don't
sacrificed for a purpose and for something good, and we have decided that's not what we want to do. Now I can say that was handed down to us because our parents who were left homes,
right,
will not leave us homes.
It's true.
They might not leave us debt, but they will not leave us homes.
It's true.
Therefore, we are the generation that if we don't do something different, we, not worse than our parents, we will not only not leave homes, we leave debt. And so making those intentional decisions now, sacrificing now, I'm telling you, the same one that's shining about your shoes is the same one that's going to shame you when your family have to beg and borrow.
A GoFundMe. Yes. A GoFundMe.
And sell fish dinners.
for your
Wash
legacy,
cars.
Yeah.
for your
Ain't nobody
for your
doing that.
funeral, just to lay you to rest.
Mhm.
Can we just start there? Can we just start there, guys? Of not leaving our families to have to do that again. It's enough to be grieving. It's enough, and then
Mhm.
to have to add how I'm going to pay for this. It's not
Mhm.
fair.
You'll get cremated on my watch.
Mine too.
Oh,
And I'm gonna do that anyway because that's just for me. That's sound financial stewardship. Don't spend all that money on no box for me. That's my preference though.
Mhm.
And if yours is different, then you make it so
Then
that
act like
you
it's
can do
different.
that. Yeah.
Act like if it's different, act
You
like
bet-
it's different.
You better
So
act
listen,
like your life
you better
matters.
act like it's different while you're living. We have a
Yes.
few minutes left.
Okay.
I would love now. I believe the people fired up. I believe that they ready. Dion, can you walk us through the portion of how we can access services at 801? Just for the people who have access to this region, and for those that don't, we pray that you take some of what you heard and seek out services in your area, because now that you've heard, ignorance is not an excuse.
Mhm.
You can't walk
Yeah.
away from this conversation pretending like you don't know.
Pretending like you did not hear what we just said.
Yep. So Dion, walk
unhearing.
us through how we can access these beautiful women.
Certainly. So we have a brick and mortar location. All four of us beautiful women actually occupy space in that location. That is 831 East 2nd Street. And you'll see that right there. I also created just a really quick form that if you are interested in connecting with either of us on any level, you are more than welcome to do so. I'll put the slide up now and you can access the QR code. What I'll also do is put a link in the comments on my personal page with this thread information so that you can, if nothing else, now this is what I want to say. If you mention either of us or this evening's show, for those of you that are property owners or asset owners, and you want to make sure that your children are not going to struggle with being overwhelmed and inundated with excess debt that should not be their responsibility, Jet is willing to give you a 100% free consultation, which is valued at $400 an hour. You hear me? $400 an hour. But if you mention this show, just as a direct result of hearing the information and allowing it to trigger your heart to protect your family from not just grieving, but loss exponentially as a result of a lack of planning and several bars of ignorance. Because at this point, when you know better, you do better. You can also connect with Simone Lane at, are we doing Bespoke or are we doing Lobdell and Lane Wealth Management, Simi?
Either one. Lobdell and Lane rolls off real quick. LobdellandLane.com.
Okay. All right. And so you can go to lobdellandlane.com, schedule an appointment, but we prefer you use this link because I want you to be able to get directly in touch with each of them. All you have to do is select in the drop down. It gives you check marks if you need assistance in all the locations. Because the truth is, until you do the deep work of your heart and you find out where the bad patterns and habits come from, listen, you're going to struggle. If it's spiritual, I can absolutely help you. If it's therapeutic, if your trauma is so deep that you know you need an hourly appointment with Dr. Bree, listen, make the appointment. Quit being terrified and not dealing with it, and quit having the turtle in the shell mentality and really kind of steering away from it as opposed to heading things face on. But either way, here is the cover slide. You can actually just scan it with your phone. Like I said, I'll go ahead and enter the link as well in the chat and in the comments to make sure that you are able to connect with either of us. All of us are available. And if you are interested in immediate assistance, I'll make allotments. I'm sure that Simone and Jet, as well as Dr. Bree, will do the same, so that you can get the help that you need. More than anything, if you don't deal with the mental stuff, listen, the financial stuff is kind of here nor there. Real talk. If you don't deal with the root of the matter, listen, you still gonna have an issue. So that being said, I'll go ahead and share the link in the comments. 2 seconds.
While you're
And
doing that, I just wanted to
sure.
add just a little bit of clarity that the free consultation that will be offered or extended as a result of this show tonight is time sensitive. This is
It
not
is.
something that you can cash in on next year. It is
Right.
time
We're
sensitive.
not doing
In fact,
that.
we're going to say it's available to you for the next 30 days. And it is not a full hour consultation. It is 20 to 30 minutes tops. So make good use of your time. Have your questions ready. This is not the time for you to ramble. Jed and
It's a real
Simone are
thing.
not offering a therapy session. They're going to shift you down the hall to my office. But if you want to come and get some questions about your finances, that is a free $400 value, 20 to 30 minutes tops. I just wanted to be clear on that. So don't come in here with 3 years worth of tax returns that ain't been filed.
And due to how my day is and the way my business is flowing, my consultations are 15 minutes because at that point we know which way we're going to go. You know,
And you can do good work. You can do good work in 15 minutes.
We can.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Well, listen, I don't know about you guys, but I'm grateful to be connected to resources, to folks that aren't just talking about it, but actually demonstrate it and can show me how to move around and do it effectively and efficiently. For those of you that don't have a budget, shame on you. Listen, Bespoke budgeting, Bespoke wealth management can definitely help you get a budget together so you can get out of a financial rut. And she doesn't just deal with the money, she deals with the mind. So it's a combination of a couple of things. And if you got some stuff, y'all, can we stop losing our property? Please, can we stop losing and giving away our property for pennies on the dollar to probate just because we're afraid to have the conversation? Can we get some stuff in place so that we are not scrambling at end of life with real stuff that you knew was coming? Listen, let me tell y'all a little secret. Y'all know it's coming. You know you're not getting out of this thing alive. Every single person, from those of us that are speaking to those of us that are watching, listen, you're not leaving here alive. To properly plan, I don't want my children to be stuck because I didn't consider them. Like I said, if my grandmama with her second grade education having behind could make sure I had some coins after she left here, shame on me if I don't do better.
And speaking of doing better, we'll wrap it with this. For those of us that feel like this tax is going to be so monumental that you're going to be living a life of lack and sacrifice, I want to encourage you that after you do your work, you will be surprised. Bree still shops, but now I shop without having to look over my shoulder. I don't owe nobody nothing, and that's including God.
Amen.
I pay them good tithes on a regular basis. I have more now than I've ever had before. So do your work.
Yeah.
And you can do it without robbing Peter.
To pay Paul. Woo, I'm sick of Paul.
Your nerves.
Out of Paul. He nerve wracking, right?
Simone and Jet, we thank you so much for being our guests. We thank you for blessing our listening audience. We thank you for your willingness to give them the gift of your time to help them undo some generational curses that are in their bloodline. Before we go, would either of you like to have a last word?
I would like to thank you both for a platform and a space that this information can be shared, because it's not easily just put out there. It isn't thought of for the listener. You know, it's usually hoarded, kept, I should say, and we're not doing that. We're not here to gatekeep. I want to see all of us win, and we can. I want to leave with you some solutions to some of those effects of trauma on your finances. Let facts drive your decision making and not fear. Fear of what you've seen and what has been your experience before. let's run with facts and truth. And then the other thing is create some boundaries. In regard to your decision making. If that means putting a budget in place, if that means removing apps that make it easy for you to overspend, things like that. So create some boundaries for yourself. I, again, just want to thank you both for having myself and my beautiful, that's my girl over there, Jack. That's my peer professional. If you talk to me about estate planning, I'm sending you to her, because she is legit. Her heart is beautiful, and she knows her stuff. The girl don't litigation. She didn't talk about that. She loved to argue. She argues well.
Very well. And y'all think she quiet. I got a trick for you. What she ain't is quiet. She's not quiet at all, or timid by any stretch of the email. Don't you let this little show trick y'all. Jet about that life.
Jet, did you have any final words you'd like to leave with our listening audience?
No, I had a thought, but first, thank you so much for letting me be a part of your afternoon. I am so very grateful, and thank you for blessing me with this. I had a thought in that, what would it be like, instead of leaving our kids 30 steps behind someone, we could help them move 60 steps ahead.
That would be lit.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
That's what I'm doing.
Yes, you
are.
That's what I'm doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very
So
excited.
as you all,
it's doable, Bree. It's doable. I watched you do it. I watched you do it.
We watched you do it.
Yeah, we watched you do it. And that was that thing where I said leaving space for God. See, when we manage our stuff and do our stuff, when we leave that space, he steps in and makes, your testimony regarding your home purchases is every one of them. Like, my God.
Every one of them. Say that. Come through, Jesus. Leaving room for God. Every one of them. And recognizing God in leaving room for him.
Yes.
And moving in spite of what you think, in spite of how you feel. If we go into our prayer room at 831 2nd Street, right? If we go into our prayer room and look at our prayer wall, at the things that we put on the wall to pray about at 831 East 2nd Street, don't play, right? There are some things that have been answered, and there are some things that have been answered in a way we did not anticipate them being answered, right? And so I said that to say, for those of you that are still uncomfortable, get you some friends that believe God and believe God with you. You dig? Get you some friends that you can testify to without having to feel small or belittle. My friend has a PhD and 4 houses. Don't play. Right?
Yes.
Right. And it's not a little bitty thing. And we watched it manifest through healing. And healing only comes from God. Healing don't come from getting your money right. Healing don't come from having a will and a trust. Healing comes from Jesus. Period. Dot. And so, listen, I'm excited. I'm excited about the people that'll take advantage of the opportunity to connect with each one of you, and get to a place financially, even if it's just emotionally. If you just take those baby steps and allow faith to have its perfect work in you, everything changes. I got proof. Over and over and over and over again. I got proof.
Absolutely. And it don't take no long time. I'll end it on this. If you're not going to believe God big, don't worry about believing him at all. Believe big or go home.
Yeah.
Go big or go home. Straight up.
Believe big or go home. We hope, it is our prayer, that we have given you something to think about tonight. Even if you think your business is in order, check and make sure. Check and double check. If you're using a plastic bin in the back of the closet, Sabrina, get you a fireproof box.
Yes.
To make sure. that your calling in election is
It's
sure.
sure, honey. Yes.
It's sure. If
Mhm.
you are going to reach out and take advantage of the free consultations, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, tap in and let Deanna and I know. As a result of the show, this is what I did. We want to celebrate you. We want to stand with you. We want to cheer you on because your
Mhm.
future generations are counting on you. And you were
It's
built
true.
for this. So with that being said, like and share. Once this broadcast ends, share it on your page. There's some people who keep borrowing money from you. They need to be free so you
Listen.
can be free.
Right.
I can't give you another $25, but I can let you hear this show. It'll change your life. Start thinking outside the box, people. We love
It's
you,
true.
and we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.